And what is going on, everybody? What episode is this? I didn't even check. Is this 63?
62, right?
62.
62?
Mike
Sounds about right.
McCarthy's age.
Oh, wow, good timing.
Well, would you look at that? How the stars have aligned for our hero, Mike McCarthy, who's fallen into the hands of Yinzer Nation. We got a lot to get into in this episode 62 of We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. Before we get into all of that, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel if you like our content, and follow us on our social medias. We're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on TikTok. And let's get into this, gentlemen, because there was some football played this past weekend. Some were arguing it even wasn't football, what we saw in the third and fourth quarters of the Broncos-Patriots. Some were advocating some
We need a weather
truly
delay.
heinous things. There were some truly heinous things being recommended for that game. And we saw a much more entertaining nightcap between the Rams and the Seahawks. The best division in football all season was the NFC West, and those were the two best teams in the NFC going at it. I want to start with that one because that was the big game this weekend. Because it was just, it was back and forth for a little bit, and then the Rams had special teams mistakes, and we got to get into also an ironic. I don't even know if it's ironic, but they brought in the special teams guy for the Browns who had the 32nd, like the worst. They had the worst special teams in the league. So the second worst, and the Rams just fired their special teams guy and is bringing in technically the worst special teams guy in the league for whatever that's worth.
I didn't know that either.
But the Rams, this was an opportunity for Stafford. He's getting up there in age. Sam Darnold, the Rams have had Sam Darnold's number for the most part. Now, obviously, the game prior to that, I don't know if that was Sam Darnold-led Seahawks, that comeback, but he had a part in it, and they beat the Rams the second game. And I think that really helped Darnold in terms of his confidence because it is like in your head, just getting manhandled by the Rams in the playoffs last year with Minnesota. And then that first game, he was just not himself. He had a lot of turnovers, right? He did all season, to be quite honest, but just bad turnovers in that game against the Rams. But, that was the best I've seen Sam Darnold play. I think that's safe to say. He lit the world on fire last season with the Vikings, but the context of this game, the magnitude, going with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, there were a couple throws that were just bad by him, but everybody has at least like five throws that just aren't good all game.
Yeah.
Normally,
he was tremendous.
Normally he'll have some bad, because he's a little wild. Like that's kind of what you get with Sam Darnold. But honestly, there was only one throw that I could think of that was off. It was actually on that last drive that they closed the game out. It was a sideline throw, maybe it was 15, 20 yards downfield. And for whatever reason, the ball just kind of sailed on him. And it just kind of went out of bounds, and Shahid tried to catch it. But that didn't end up hurting them in the end. He was terrific. Now, I want to start off by saying, because I was thinking about this last week after our podcast. I got to give our all three of us credit, because when we did our top 10 rankings around week 10, week 11, right? Maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know. But it was around mid-season. All three of us, I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this, had the Rams and the Seahawks. I don't know in what order, but we had them as our top two teams in the NFL.
Did I have the Seahawks over the Colts? Because I knew I had the Colts high
Well,
at the time.
it was either like top 3.
Yeah, okay.
It was around the time the Colts were 7-1. So
Right.
you might have had the Colts, but like they were up there as like these are 2 of the top teams in football.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to look back and watch the episode. And it was a little weird for us because it was like both of these teams are in the same division, but if you watch the games, you watch the Seattle defense, you knew these coaching staffs, you knew that like these 2 teams all year felt like the best teams in football, and it worked out this year where even though they were in the same division, they happened to meet and what really felt like the Super Bowl almost. And I'm not saying New England doesn't have a chance. I think they do, but it felt like those were the 2 best teams in football this year, and it was just great to see them match up for a third time. So I want to give us credit. Gotta give credit to ourselves. Gotta pat ourselves on the back there, because especially with Seattle, because I think there was a lot of doubt with Seattle because of Sam Darnold, and I've always been a Sam Darnold guy, but the big thing with him was that he gets weird in the big moments, right? Is he going to be weird in the big moments? Because that's what happened twice last year in Minnesota, but that didn't happen this year. Now, the game that changed everything for Seattle and it changed everything for the Rams was the second time they met, because the Rams continued to have Sam Darnold's number. They were up 16 points with 9 minutes to go, destined to be the number 1 seed, and everything turned on its head. And that was kind of when you knew like this something special is going on with this Seattle team. And for the Rams, ever since that game, things just felt a little off, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They were number 1 defense in the league up until that point. I feel like, and then they kind of were in the bottom half of the league. They need some help in their secondary, the Rams, for next year. But you have to give Sam Darnold credit, because the last several weeks he hasn't had to do much to win. Right? The 2 games against the 49ers, he didn't have to do anything to win that game because the 49ers were just so injured. But this game, he had to outduel Matthew Stafford. And he did that. And Matthew Stafford was fantastic. But Sam Darnold has proved, like, this, you can count on him in the biggest moments. And the Seahawks got him on a team-friendly deal for another 2 years. But for this Super Bowl, we'll get into that more next week. The pressure is on the Seattle Seahawks from a history standpoint because of the Malcolm Butler interception, right? It's a redemption for that organization. And they're facing, a younger roster that kind of feels like it's a year away still. Like, to me, Seattle's roster, this is their time. And the NFC is only going to get more difficult. So, like, now's your time to win it all if you're the Seahawks. But, I was going all over the place there. We could get more into the specifics of the game, but very excited about this Seattle team. Very happy.
And I'm going to go out before I talk about the game. I'm going to admit that I was very wrong, because I was a big advocate of what the Vikings did was pretty much letting go of Sam Darnold or letting him go. Obviously not because of play, but because it's very risky with just bringing him in for a lot of money whenever he really only had that one elite year up to that point. And you draft a first-round quarterback, and you prefer to have a quarterback under a rookie window because you know they'll get paid. I was absolutely wrong, because it's so hard to figure out the quarterback position. It is really difficult. Whenever you have one, you don't want to let it go, especially one that can take you to the Super Bowl with the right team. But no, Sam Darnold, what he's been doing is unbelievable. And the great thing is, and I've seen videos of this where one of the scouting reports was that whenever he makes a mistake, it doesn't faze him, right? He can go to the next play. He's not scared to throw the football. We know guys like Mitch Trubisky. Once he makes a mistake, it feels like he's not willing to do anything except dump it off to the running back, just because he's too scared to go to the middle of the field and try to test his arm and everything. But Sam Darnold, he's a gutsy player. You're almost willing to take the turnovers that he makes because you know that he can bounce back, and he's proven that he was worth the contract that they've given him. As for the Seahawks, this might be pound for pound their best team, and you can, like, almost ever. You could even look at the Russell Wilson days, the Legion of Boom. But if we just look at this roster being the top defense in the NFL, a top 3 offense in the NFL, both in terms of points allowed and points per game, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it makes sense that they're Super Bowl favorites going into the playoffs, and they've proven it exactly why. They dominated their first team, the 49ers, that they played, and then they go up and they show up against a very talented Rams team that has a lot of good players. So, I mean, you have to give credit to the Seahawks. They're absolutely going to be favored in the Super Bowl. I'd be shocked if they weren't. But yeah, they've definitely proven that they belong. And I mean, what a coaching job by McDonald and I forget their general manager's name, but he's done Schneider done a fantastic job in the draft. Something really hard to do. It seems like every one of his drafts he finds a key player no matter what the round. So.
Yeah, no, Seattle, it's just, they've been so impressive this season. I can't remember. I feel like I did have Seattle 1. I'm not sure, but I remember that we all had Seattle and Rams 1 or 2. I'm pretty sure it was 1 or 2. So that is a pat on the back moment. But I think the big key in this game, and they talked about it on the broadcast, was third down, because the Rams just all game just struggled. 1 for 8 on third down. They had that 3rd and 1 play, and they couldn't get it, and that was that 4th down where they were not able to convert. I think Seattle 7 of 13 on third down, and I think it was one of them that didn't convert was like at the end where Sam Darnold, like you mentioned, Peyton, he had that throw that just the air mailed it on the sideline. But that was just a big key because Stafford played really well. You look at their passing numbers, Stafford actually passed for more yards, and they had about the same passing attempts. But it just felt like Darnold was so good in this game. Every big play they needed. Can't say enough about Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, he was just all over the field like he always is. But he had the one-handed grab on the sideline, and he's just a remarkable player. And Rashid Shaheed obviously coming up big. That was a huge pickup at the trade deadline. The NFL trade deadline is pretty sleepy for the most part every year, but that was a big time pickup because I remember the Steelers. People are saying the Steelers maybe should take a look at Rashid Shaheed, for maybe a wide receiver option. The Seahawks and John Schneider, they're aggressive. They pick him up, and he was pivotal in both games against the Rams down the stretch, and could arguably have been the difference because, I mean, the Rams specialties, I mean, you just cannot – I don't know who that player was. I'm not familiar with – you can't slip and fall in the NFC Championship and lose the ball. You just can't do that in a game that's the thinnest of margins. These teams, we've seen it, they're separated by the thinnest of margins, even with the Rams kind of struggling. I don't know if struggling is the right word, but they were not 100% like we've seen them all season. They haven't been at their best down the stretch here. But still, I mean, Stafford was making the plays. Puka Nacua is tremendous. They got the run game going at different times, which surprised me, honestly, how effectively they ran the ball when they did at times. But Seattle, man, I mean, they got that 11-point lead. The Rams are coming back. But it just felt like Seattle, they were making less mistakes. And in a game like that, that's so close and is on the thinnest of margins, that's pivotal. And so Seattle, I mean, what a job going to the Super Bowl. Nobody expected anything out of them this year. I think foolishly, when you look back, I mean, I'm ashamed going into the season. I had them like 8-9, something like that, just because the transition, Mike McDonald, a defensive guy, Sam Darnold, can he replicate that in a defensive system? But I mean, and nobody could have seen this coming with this defense because these are unheralded guys. You see that with the Rams. You see that with these teams that have cheaper defenses, have younger defenses, because they draft so well. They're able to keep these guys. But the Seahawks, I mean, just some unheralded defensive players on the defensive line. You talk about these corners who were locked down in big moments in that game. Not all game. They gave up a lot of plays, and Rams are gonna get theirs. But I thought when it mattered, those Seattle corners, they talked a little too much. They talked a little bit too much during the game, which could have cost them too. That was a mistake. We were talking about who were going to make the least amount of mistakes. You can't be doing that. I don't care what the situation is.
And then Woolen got torched on the next play.
Yeah, for the touchdown right after it. Yeah.
And no one's going to... But, like, at that point, I thought, now everything's even. The Rams made their big mistake, and the Seahawks made their big mistake now. And I thought, okay, now things are even. The difference was, Seattle's had the better defense. They were able to get that last stop. Fourth and 4. I was shocked the way the Rams were moving the ball that they got stopped. I was thinking, kick the field goal. Just kick the field goal. But I understand you want to take the lead under 5 minutes. I mean, and you're also thinking if you're Sean McVay, who knows if we're going to get the ball back. And actually, they didn't get the ball back. So maybe that was the right decision. Because if you kick the field goal and don't give your offense a chance to actually win the game, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night. But yeah. I mean, the Seahawks are just both Seattle and New England throughout these playoffs prove that they may not be great at everything, but they're good at everything. And the Rams special teams, that was their weakness. That was their biggest weakness. And I'm sure Sean McVay is going to address it next year. And, it's going to be tough for the Rams in that division. But if you get Matt Stafford back, if he stays healthy, you have the two weapons. You have the running back. You have the play caller. Chris Shola's not going anywhere, it looks like. So, well, I mean, that's I don't think he's was interviewing with the Raiders or the Cardinals. So, I mean, the Rams, they'll be fine. But it's a bit. The question is, does Matthew Stafford want to continue? I don't see why he wouldn't. So. Yeah, but you do feel bad for Matthew Stafford. I hope he gets the MVP because he deserves something for this season. And to me, he had the better statistics. Is Adams signed for next year, or is he?
I thought it was a 2-year. It might not have been.
I don't remember.
But I don't know if you guys saw it, Devontae Adams.
Good.
Yeah.
And he's not that young.
He was emotional.
And he's still great.
He was emotional after the game just because this might have been the chance. A year older Matt Stafford. Now the Rams, one thing they do great is drafting these defensive guys who are unheralded, and then they make big plays. But I think the Rams are going to be back next year. Right? I mean, there's no question about that. But it just hurts for a guy like Devontae Adams who's. Green Bay, they were so close for a long time. Then he goes to the Raiders, and they're a disaster. Goes to the Jets, they're even more of a disaster. And he goes to L.A. He's produced all season when he's been healthy. And he had some big catches. He didn't have, 8 catches for whatever, but he had some big catches in that game against Seattle. They were pinned back in their own way at the 10-yard line. And Stafford had that great throw to Devontae Adams that he kind of dove for, made a great play on. So he's still a really, really good receiver. That was a great move by the Rams in the offseason. Anything else, guys, to add to that? I mean, tough for the Rams. The team had to lose, and it was the Rams, but they'll be back. And, Seattle, they got their eyes on the prize now.
I do wanted to add on what Jake Bell said. No one saw this coming with Seattle. Not that because I think a lot of people like Mike Macdonald. they knew that they were heading in the right direction with the defense. We talk about a lot of these teams, they spend on offense, they don't spend on defense, right? They stay young on defense and they allow the coaching to elevate the defense. That's what the Rams have done the last 2 years. That's what the Seahawks have done, right? And they both turn into pretty darn good units. Obviously, Seattle's is top tier this year, outside of maybe Houston's. But why people didn't have Seattle up there is, like you said, you change the quarterback, you trade your quarterback, who people forget Geno Smith was solid. Like, maybe he hadn't been as good as he was his first year with Seattle, but like he was good.
He was, yeah.
And I remember
competent.
people saying like, "Oh, this is a mistake to move off of Geno Smith. What are the chances you're gonna get someone better?" And I mean, I think I've always thought highly of Sam Darnold. I absolutely love the Sam Darnold move. And then you trade DK Metcalf, and people knew Jackson Smith and Jigba would be good. I don't think people thought he would be this.
With one less really good receiver, him getting this much separation is incredible.
So, like, I think that's why people slept on Seattle, because they traded their quarterback and their number one receiver. Teams don't just go to the Super Bowl the next year after that happens. Like, it's
unless
just,
you're
like, it's
the
unheard
Rams
of.
with Goff and Stafford.
It's unheard of. And, yeah, Sam Darnold deserves a lot of recognition. He really does. But my point is, John Schneider just seemed to be one step ahead of everybody these last few off seasons. And when you talk about the Patriots and the Seahawks, they had to both move off of legendary older coaches who, you know, things weren't progressing, right? There wasn't a lot of forward thinking going on. It was a lot of just mediocrity going on, right? With both of those franchises. And the owners and the GMs had to step in. I mean, Rob Kraft makes the decisions in New England pretty much, and then Schneider makes the decisions in Seattle. They had to make a hard decision to let go of Pete Carroll, to let go of Bill Belichick. And they got the coach right. And when you get the coach right, things can happen. I mean, Vrabel in year 1 and McDonald in year 2. So,
anything else, Jake Bell, in this game? We're going to shift to
Patriots.
Yeah, I'm good.
the AFC, but
definitely.
Just a note here: the Rams hired Bubba Ventrone, the Cleveland Browns special teams coordinator, to be their special teams coordinator. So there you go. On that front, I don't know what to make of that, but let's shift to New England with a hard-fought and tough in a blizzard at the end, 10-7 victory over the Denver Broncos. And just a weird game. I didn't get eyes on the third quarter. And in Pittsburgh here, we got a lot of snow. I was out there shoveling. Trying to do my part a little bit, but it was 7-7.5, and then it's 10-7 New England. So I was like, I just missed a field goal. But I mean, I came in and it was a blizzard on my TV too. It's a blizzard everywhere. I'm like, what is going on here? But what were you guys' thoughts on that? Obviously, just tough for Denver not having Bo Nix. I think you can make a great argument that if Bo Nix is in that game, the Broncos are victorious. But you just never know how these games play out. That things can change, with one addition, one different player not playing or playing. Jarrett Stidham, really the difference in the game was when New England got pressure, it was over. And they pressured frequently. That's what you can do with the inexperienced quarterbacks. Stidham had that one touchdown drive that was really good. He had another one, obviously, where they got down to New England 25 or something like that, and obviously they go for it on fourth down. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that decision by Sean Payton. I honestly didn't hate it, because if you get that first down there and you get a touchdown there, 14-0, man, and with that defense, with how it was going, young quarterback on the other side, Drake May, road playoff game, the first of his career. I was thinking, that was worth the gamble. And nobody knows. I think even more so with the snow, that going for it there was the right call, honestly, because even if you kick a field goal there, it's 10-10 hypothetically, right? It'd be tied or something. And I think you want to be more. If Sean Payton would have known it was going to be a blizzard early, he would have made the same decision and still been more aggressive, knowing that, right? Because I'm not going to get touchdowns in the blizzard, in this blizzard condition. I got to get it early.
If he would have known there was a blizzard coming, I think he absolutely would have taken the field. I don't think he was aware of the weather conditions. I don't think they thought it was going to be that bad. Because no one was moving the ball. No one. And if it would have been 10-10, you would have been a 46-yard field goal away from taking the lead with under 2 minutes with when nobody was moving the ball. Obviously, Lutz missed that field goal, so it wouldn't have mattered. But it's the biggest fourth down call that early in the game that's ever been criticized, I feel like. At the same time, I think there is criticism to be had, because when that play happened in the second quarter, I said, you gotta kick the field goal. I was saying that before the play happened. Kick the field goal, take the points. And it wasn't because I knew there was a blizzard coming. It was because you have a backup quarterback, right? And you have the lead. Go up 2 possessions. Continue to put don't allow the momentum to flip. And Jarrett Stidham was horrible the rest of the game. Now part of that was he couldn't throw in those conditions. I mean, heck, Drake May. Some of Drake May's throws were just dying in those conditions as well. It's like, if Drake's throws are dying, Jarrett Stidham ain't gonna do anything. And I don't know what he was doing. Christian Gonzalez was playing deep quarters, and he decides to chuck up a deep ball to whoever he was guarding, whoever Gonzalez was guarding. It was easily intercepted. So, yeah, I think Sean Payton made the wrong move. But I understand where he was coming from as well. But it was just a tough situation for Denver. I don't think we could just look at that one decision and say, Sean Payton cost them their season. So
yeah, this game, it was, like you mentioned, kind of just weird with the scoring. It looked like early on that Stidham I wouldn't say 100% comfortable, but it looked like he, as long as he was going to continue to play decent like he did, it would have been fine. But just the conditions caught up to him, like you guys mentioned, the pressure and everything, and it's just, there's only so much he was going to be able to do. And the Patriots, obviously, they didn't have to do too much, except they really had to be in on defense, because Drake May, we knew he wasn't going to have the performance that he usually does due to all the weather and everything. But, I mean, congrats to the Patriots, though. I mean, I know I already said in this podcast, but if they win and they have more Super Bowls than the Steelers, I will not care. That would be cool. I like Drake May. Why not see the Patriots?
Yeah, I don't care about that.
With this young team that probably shouldn't be here. I had them making the playoffs, but if you told me they'd make the Super Bowl, I'd say you're crazy. But either way, I mean, good for the Patriots. This was a really good Broncos team, and yes, I know Bo Nix wasn't playing, but either way, it was going to be so difficult to play them in the playoffs. Broncos are home, just a lot going on, and everything would be in favor for the Broncos in that situation, even if they weren't favored because of the backup quarterback. So, yeah, I don't have too much to say. This wasn't this instant classic game. Broncos had their opportunities, and they weren't able to cash in, especially with the field goals. So
they missed a 54-yarder in good conditions.
Yeah.
Right?
So
or maybe it was less than that.
Yeah, and that would kept the game tied. And who knows what happens in overtime, but yeah, not too much to say, just tough all around. So, but it was a close game.
The game was played in Denver's favor, right? Mm-hmm. Like Sean, if you're Sean Payton, you're thinking, we want this to be a low scoring game. We want this to be ugly. We don't want to get into a shootout, yeah, with Drake May. Like we can't win that way. And it wasn't the blizzard that stopped New England. I mean, that first half, Denver was the better team. I mean, they were moving the ball more effectively. but not kicking that field goal, Jarrett Stidham bad turnover. Instead of being up, they could have been up 13-0. In that first half, they could have been, and New England would have been in
That's a
real
great
trouble.
point. That turnover.
And instead, it was 7-7 because you didn't take the field goal, you missed a field goal, and Jarrett Stidham did a Jarrett Stidham thing. So when the margin of error is very thin, especially when the entire second half is played in a blizzard, and you do have to give credit to New England. On that first drive of the second half, they committed to the run game, and it worked. And they had to run the ball which is what they got that field goal. He would have liked if you were in England to get a touchdown because it was like a 10-minute drive. But that run game worked, and they had to go to the run game because Denver's rush was overwhelmed that New England offensive line. And that's what I worry about most in this Super Bowl. I don't know. This New England offensive line, they were able to hold up enough against Denver, barely able to hold up against Houston. That Chargers defensive line gave them issues. Like, now you're facing Seattle. Like, you got to have a good game plan in place to help out this offensive line because that is the biggest mismatch, I think, in this game, is the Seattle defensive line against this New England offensive line that needs a few more pieces, needs a year's work to be a really good offensive line.
Yeah, no, that was a great point about Jarrett Stidham's turnover. I didn't even think about that because that really, I mean, those two plays cost Denver the game, I think, especially the Stidham. I think the Stidham just turnover because, the momentum was turning in New England's favor, but it wasn't like, oh my goodness, like a wave of New England momentum. It was, oh wow, look, we got a defensive stop against Jarrett Stidham, great job. But then they have to punt it back to Denver, right? They don't do anything on the next drive, and Denver gets the ball, and they immediately get that defensive stand, and that was just Stidham was holding on to the ball too long. I think he felt the need, to try to make plays in the game, and that's inherent, when you're in that kind of game and you're thrust into action like that. You want to make plays for your team. That was just one where you got to get rid of that football. Even a half second earlier, he was about to throw it away, and then he tucked it back again, and was trying to flip it. Like, what are we doing there? He just had some really dumb plays, but I think that was really when I saw that I was like, New England's going to win this game, and I think a lot of people did. But as for the fourth down call, I just want to revisit that again because when I saw it, I also said kick the field goal, But then again, too, that was a long drive, right? That was a drive where they were doing, and it was just, but it just felt like it was.
And they weren't being stopped, really. I mean,
yeah,
Peyton,
but it's also like,
yeah. Go ahead.
It was also just like weird. It's like Jarrett Stidham, like how long this Patriots defense has been good all playoffs and has been underrated this season. It's like how long can they sustain this? Like I was thinking, like if you do go for a fourth down, you don't get tricky. You don't have Jarrett Stidham moving to his right out of the pocket and trying to make a pass. It's 4th and 1. Run it. I don't care what. Like you got your right side of your O-line are Pro Bowlers. Like run it to your right and pick up a first down. If you can't do that, then you're not going to win the game and you don't deserve to win the game, right? So there's like that's why I think it's easy to criticize Sean Payton and I've criticized him, a lot, especially recently. But like in that moment, like I wouldn't have been mad at either decision he made. Honestly, it was an aggressive call. I think that was a game for the Broncos where you shouldn't be aggressive, but I think at times you needed to pick your spots to be aggressive because I think for the whole game, even without the blizzard, it was like one of our opportunities to score points. I think for Sean Payton in that moment, he was like, how many drives like this are we going to have remaining? Let me try and get a touchdown and really, really not put this game away, but just put immense pressure on Drake May and a young New England team. So, any more thoughts?
Like I said earlier, the the way this game formulated was in Denver's favor. They just didn't take advantage of it. It's just few key things, and that's what it comes down to. Then, of course, the snow. I actually think, I mean, that went in Denver's favor as well, but they didn't have a lead to, just protect the ball and kill the clock, etc. So,
well, I think in
yeah,
that
but they'll be
snow,
back.
it's whoever has the lead is in favor. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
just like whoever has the lead, like they have the advantage.
And
It just
in that
felt like
first
because it was
half,
like, is anybody else gonna score?
right, that first half they should have had the lead. I mean, they just didn't
Right.
execute. I mean, Sean Payton. I think a lot of people like Denver in this game, and it turned out to be true. To at least be competitive, he had a great game plan. Everything that was on script in the first half was working with Jarrett Stidham, and it just didn't. They just weren't able to build anything on that. So I think Sean Payton did the best he could with the situation he had, and I think Bo Nix. I think this Denver team can get better. I think their defense was not as good as I think it was projected to be this year. Now in that game they were, but I think the defense could continue to improve. They're younger on that side of the ball. And Bo Nix I think could continue to get better. And because they won a lot of close games. So and they'll have to continue to win close games because that division doesn't get easier. So
Yeah, and we'll have preview of the Super Bowl next week on next week's episode. Obviously, there's a hiatus for the disastrous Pro Bowl this week, and then the following week is the Super Bowl.
Why
obviously.
is it on a Tuesday? Why is the Pro Bowl on a Tuesday? Since when was that a thing?
I don't
It's a
think
joke.
it's.
What a joke.
Yeah, I was researching, because I was writing a story on it, obviously, but and I saw that it was like Tuesday. Like, I'm not gonna watch anyway, but like I don't watch typically, but I thought it was always on the Sunday. It's usually on Sunday.
Yeah,
I remember Saturday night they'd play their kickball or dodgeball. I think they played dodgeball or they whatever those goofy games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I mean, I don't know. I think they should just not have any Pro Bowl. I think they should just recognize the players. You're a pro, and that's it. Like at this point, like what does flag football do for anybody at this
The Pro
point?
Bowl used to actually be like fun, and then over the years it's gotten like worse. And then they're like, okay, let's turn it into flag football. Like I don't see how that was the solution.
Well, they didn't
but,
want
like,
two
the
players to
NFL
get
is
hurt.
such a great product. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the Pro Bowl. Like in Major League Baseball, I'll sit and complain about the All-Star game because it just means more. It just does. It's just a more popular thing. So it doesn't matter to me. But I think what we do have to complain about is the Pro Bowl selection process because Pro Bowls mean a lot to these players, and the fact that it's based on a fan vote now is discrediting it, and it's discrediting people's resumes, specifically when we're talking about the Hall of Fame. So
Yeah,
Yeah, you want to talk? I mean, we could talk about Shadur.
I do want to
Sanders.
mention that, like how you said, Peyton, about Pro Bowls. Like for the Hall of Fame now, you just have to look at all pros and for quarterback Super Bowls. You can't, like, Pro Bowls can't mean anything anymore, and it's a shame. But like you look at like Russell Wilson, who's trying to make a case at the Hall of Fame. He has more Pro Bowls than most, if not any quarterback that's played in his generation. And now all of a sudden that's not going to mean anything if Tyler Huntley and Shedeur Sanders are going to make a Pro Bowl 2 of the last 3 years. I mean, it's just, to me, that's just it completely changes the way you look at it. Like that's supposed to be like the All-Stars, like the All-Stars of football. And it's turned into, well, this player is popular, so he's going to get X amount of votes.
he's
And there's
ranked
no other
8th in the voting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous. And now, like, I'm all for, like, obviously I have no problem with Russell Wilson, but I'm more saying leaning towards he's not a Hall of Famer than he is a Hall of Famer, and now it's going to be much tougher for him to make it because of the whole Pro Bowl thing, and that's what he's holding on to. Is how many Pro Bowls he has.
And I'm not anti-Shadur. Like, I don't care about Shadur specifically. It's just the issue at hand.
Right, exactly. And it's not. I'm not referring just to him. Obviously, Tyler Huntley's one too. I mean, you might as well have thrown Kenny Pickett in there at that point, right? I mean, because at least he started.
I mean,
it's just
we could go down the list of quarterbacks who could have been in over Shadur. This year. I mean, I was saying, why not Aaron? I mean, Aaron could have been Russell Wilson was a Pro Bowler last year.
Right, yeah.
Actually. And Aaron did better than him this year, I thought. So, yeah.
Okay, guys, want to transition to the coaching cycle and the coaching realm of the NFL. Your Pittsburgh Steelers made a couple days after last week's episode, they made their hire.
After. Wasn't it it was 2 days after. Yeah.
Actually, I think it went out on Saturday, the episode. So technically it was like later that day, honestly.
Yeah.
I got it the day after.
We recorded it 2 days before.
Yeah. But Mike McCarthy announced as the head football coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike McCarthy, a Yinzer through and through, a Greenfield native. And, if you're from Greenfield, you're a true Yinzer. I love Greenfield. But Mike McCarthy, initially, I got to be honest, a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like the hire. I think some of it was for valid reasons. Like, there's no disputing they could have done better in terms of a higher upside candidate, a guy that, a young, innovative mind, which we were kind of preaching about, and I think a lot of people were preaching about, who maybe has a higher ceiling at this juncture just because you don't know. There's that unknown. It might have a lower floor because it could crash and burn, but that's been the Steelers' kind of formula when they do, in the rare chance, have to make a coaching hire. They go with a younger-minded coach who's going to be there for at least 15, 20 seasons. And obviously that's not going to happen with Mike McCarthy. Even if he does tremendous, he's not going to be here for 15 seasons. He is 62 years of age, as Pirate Payne mentioned in the open. I was not happy with the reaction from a lot of Steeler fans just because I think there was a lot of hate directed at Mike McCarthy, and it wasn't unexpected to me because Mike McCarthy is a guy that's been disrespected his whole coaching career, right? I mean, all he's done is win in multiple spots. You look at the resumes, him and John Harbaugh, they're basically identical, but John Harbaugh was considered the slam dunk candidate of this cycle, while Mike McCarthy was the definition of an afterthought, right? And when the Steelers requested and interviewed Mike McCarthy, Steeler fans were like, oh boy, what's going on here? And there was that possibility in their heads, and I think a lot of people, Steeler fans included, did have that mindset of Mike McCarthy's he's treated like a bum head coach. He's treated like I don't want to honestly like a Robert Saleh, who I think people think has had is better than maybe his coaching career or specifically with the Jets went, but he's thought of as is below average coach at this point, even though Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl, and everywhere he's been successful, and in Dallas where they haven't had many really good seasons. Obviously, with Jason Garrett, they weren't doing it. He has 3 straight 12-win seasons. Dak Prescott was playing his best. CeeDee Lamb developed into a star. And they started to be able to run the football, which me and Jake Bell were talking about earlier. They could not do for years there after Ezekiel Elliott kind of fell out of his kind of shortened prime. And I think initially I was like, could you have done better? Yes, but I felt the need to defend Mike McCarthy because he's been a winner in this league. And if John Harbaugh were the coach of Kansas City or something and the Steelers hired John Harbaugh, Steeler fans would be ecstatic, right? Obviously, he was with the Ravens, so if the Steelers hired him, it'd be a weird fit. So that's why I said Kansas City. But with Mike McCarthy's hired as Steelers head coach, and it's the worst decision in the history of our country, like he's Freddie Kitchens. I mean, that was what the outrage was. I mean, it was, this guy's a joke. What are we doing? And now I do think there should be criticism. I'm going to let you guys talk for a while here, but I do think there should be criticism at this front office, at this ownership, not necessarily for the Mike McCarthy hire, but for this roster maybe not quite being where it needs to be year in and year out, not drafting well. Even, I mean, and as we've been talking about, there's no excuse for drafting 20th, 19th, and not getting a good player. When you see what Seattle's been able to do, they've done it year in and year out, and they've gone to the Super Bowl, right? We see what the Rams have done with their defense, transforming it. There's no reason not to get a really solid player every season at around that pick. And so I don't think there's been the greatest drafting from the Steelers. I don't think the DK Metcalf initially, we were kind of excited about that, but that was a trade. The Patrick Queen signing, right? The letters were on the wall. Baltimore didn't want him back. It was a pretty team friendly deal relative to, what people thought Patrick Queen was, and nobody wanted him, and the Steelers got him. The Seahawks, John Schneider was, he was like, I'll move off of DK Metcalf in a second, right? And that's what he did. And so the writing was on the wall in those couple instances, and Omar Khan made that move. And he almost, imagine if they did land Brandon Ayuk and all that he's done in the past couple seasons since that situation. And obviously the big one, and we've documented that a lot on the podcast, the TJ Watt contract. We said when it happened, they're gonna pay him, and they did. They're gonna pay him big money, and it's not gonna pay out in the end. And now we're in the situation where there's certainly a retooling, whatever you want to call it, rebuild, retool, whatever. I don't think it's gonna be a tear it down to the studs situation here with the Steelers, but they're gonna retool the roster. They have to because it's been the same kind of roster, and it hasn't worked out. But you're looking to move some of these guys for greater financial flexibility. If you don't pay Watt and you trade him, or he's just on the market, then you have even greater financial flexibility to try and make some different moves. Obviously, you need a wide receiver too. You need linebackers, coverage linebackers. I'd like to get a D lineman. You could always use that. And a safety would be helpful as well. But maybe not all of those are possible this offseason because you're paying Watt all that money. And I think they might go off on Patrick Queen, like let him go somehow. But you're on the books to pay him that money still. And that just hasn't worked out whatsoever. When we see guys like Robert Spillane, who I thought was good with the Steelers,
He was.
I would have liked to see them keep. He goes to Vegas, he goes to the Patriots, and he's a team captain. Landon Roberts, who signed for $2 million, nobody wanted him in free agency, and I wonder why, but the Steelers didn't want to pay up that at all, and instead went with Cole Holcomb coming off a catastrophic injury. So there's been a lot of decisions by this front office, by this ownership group, that have fallen short of the Steeler way. And I think it's gotten the fans into a spot where you're almost in no position to complain about the Mike McCarthy hire when 90% of these fans weren't complaining about Mike Tomlin until this season, right? The same people that complain about, and that's what you can criticize all you want, but you were okay with Mike Tomlin getting a contract extension after they lose to Buffalo by 3 scores, right? You get a contract extension off of that, right? You were okay with him being the head coach in 2023 and 2024 and in 2025 until the middle of the season, when then it was okay. It was all of a sudden okay to criticize. So that's just kind of my thoughts. I'll let you guys go. I'll shut up real quick here. But what are your guys' thoughts on Mike McCarthy? And then after you guys react, I'm going to lay out the some of the coordinators and other coaches that McCarthy's brought on so far.
Should I go or should Jake Bell go?
That's up to you.
It's just there's a lot to think about. my reaction. I'll start with this. My reaction. I was shocked at this at first. Like I did not think they were actually going to hire Mike McCarthy. I did not. I didn't. Because Art Rooney said it was going to be a couple of weeks. They were going to take their time, and they did it in 11 days after Mike Tomlin was fired. They hired Mike McCarthy, and I was shocked because I thought they'd at least wait another week, have thorough interviews with the Rams guys, because the media, and I have to be, I guess the media was wrong, because it was Chris
Shocker.
Shula,
What
Chris
a shocker.
Shula, Chris Shula, Shieldhouse. Neither of those guys seemed to be that much in the running. I mean, they weren't finalists. The 3 finalists were the guys they had in-person interviews with. It was Brian Flores, Mike McCarthy, and Anthony Weaver, right in the end. So I was surprised the decision was made that quick. I would have been in favor of them having a more thorough search in terms of bringing in a couple more guys for in-person interviews, just to make sure, hey, if you're going to hire Mike McCarthy, let's make sure we look at everything, right? But me and Nate, I kind of feel the same. I don't hate this hire, and I think there was a huge overreaction to this hire, and I think the big reason why we talk about Tomlin, the argument being made is, well, he's the same exact coach as Mike Tomlin. Yes, their record is similar. Their resumes are kind of similar in terms of, actually, Mike McCarthy does have more playoff success than Mike Tomlin. He's 11-11. He's closer to what John Harbaugh is. Mike Tomlin was 8-12. That's a difference. 8-12 is different than 11-11. No matter how you want to put it. But they have the same amount of Super Bowl wins, and they have similar records. So in that sense, yes, they're similar. They're also similar, and this is the knock on McCarthy. Both McCarthy and Tomlin have problems getting their teams buttoned up, right? McCarthy, when he was in Dallas, they were one of the most penalized teams, right? And that's what I talk about when I'm talking about being buttoned up.
Clock management.
Clock management, right? That cost Dallas in some big games, right? In the playoffs. So in that aspect, in those aspects, I see how McCarthy and Tomlin are similar. But here's how I see Mike McCarthy, though. I see him as an upgrade in some very important factors. Number one is he's easily the best offensive coach in Pittsburgh since Bruce Arians. Easily. And whoever the offensive coordinator is, it doesn't matter, because McCarthy's going to call the plays. It's going to be his offense. It's going to be a West Coast scheme. When have we had a West Coast offense in Pittsburgh? I don't even know. I was barely alive, probably. So that's number one. McCarthy is a better offensive coach than anything the Steelers have had in years. Number two is this is the big difference between McCarthy and Tomlin. You can't necessarily maybe say that McCarthy has a coaching tree per se, but he's always hired the right people, right? In Dallas, he had Dan Quinn, right? I think Kellen Moore was kind of like already in the mix. I don't know exactly how it went down, but
Brian Schottenheimer.
He had two. Yeah. Brian Schottenheimer, look how good he is, right? As an offensive coach. Now we'll see how he is as a head coach. That's still to be determined. But like, we can see the guy can call plays and can run an offense, right? But you look back at his time in Green Bay. All the coaches he's had underneath him, like, this is a guy who's brought in the right people on a coaching staff, guys who know what they're doing, and. I mean, I have to do more research on, like, the whole coaching tree itself. Like, I know Joe Philbin, but he was a disaster as a head coach. But, like, there is some sort of tree there. There is some sort of track record of him hiring the right people. And that you can't say that about Mike Tomlin. That's been the biggest issue. That and the fact that he has his hand in everything, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and unwillingness to adjust. So, if Mike McCarthy in the next 5 years can elevate the offense, find the franchise quarterback, like, do I think Mike McCarthy is the coach that's going to get you over the hump to win multiple playoff games? Probably not. But I mean, I think Pittsburgh is a much better situation than Dallas with Jerry Jones, right? I mean, Jerry Jones is as the head coach of the Cowboys. I couldn't even imagine. He's always in your ear, making personnel decisions. There's just a lot of noise, a lot of distractions, right? I think he could at least get this offense going and bring back elements of Steeler football. You talk about the Steeler way that we haven't seen in a while, like especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's just like basic stuff that always happens. Oh, well, we have miscommunications in coverage. The linebackers, the middle linebackers not being physical enough. Like, you have McCarthy running the offensive side of the ball along with Patrick Graham as a defensive coordinator. I think that's better than any combo under Tomlin since the Bruce Arians days, since the Dick LeBeau days. Like, it's automatically an upgrade for me. So, would McCarthy have been my first choice? No. But am I excited to see what he can do? Yes. And I don't see, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. We all assume he's going to, because the Rooney's don't fire people unless he's a complete disaster and they lose a lot of games. But after the 5-year period is over, at age 67, you would think, I mean, it depends. There's a lot of factors. So you would think he's going to be done around then. Like, maybe he'd go 6, 7, 8 years, maybe. But I'm excited to see what Mike McCarthy can do. And I like this. I like the staff he's assembling. I think Patrick Graham, I mean, the numbers prove, if you look it up, he's done more. He got done more with less in Las Vegas, right? And this year you kind of have to erase because Pete Carroll, similarly to Mike Tomlin, they have their hands in the defense, right? I know Pete Carroll ran cover. He was the Raiders this year ran cover 3 50% of the time. That was Pete Carroll. So I don't know if Patrick Graham really had a hand in the defense as much this year. But I remember in 2024, we were talking about the Raiders they have a top 10 defense. I remember with our buddy Cash, we were talking this is a top.
That was a great
upper
video,
half
by
of
the
the
way.
league, upper half of the league defense. Yeah, last week that was excellent. Go check that out, episode 6.
No, I mean that video of you talking to Cashman about the Raiders being a top 10
Oh
defense
yes,
last
I
year.
remember that. But that jarred my memory. That was Patrick Graham's defense, and he's been known around the league as a guy who evolves. He's just well respected, and I saw a great quote from him. He's like, there isn't a Patrick Graham defense. Patrick Graham's defense evolves around the guys that you have. So we'll see how they address. I mean, if they're going to run 3-4, I have no problem with that. But the issue wasn't necessarily, they're running 3-4. The issue with the scheme was the play calls and the coverages, right? You have to be able to mix up the coverages better. And
the missed tackles and the poor linebacking play.
And you have in the linebackers in a 3-4, the middle linebackers have to be good. And Tomlin misevaluated middle linebackers for years. So that's going to be essential. And you have to get the nose tackle position right because Keanu Benton is a good player, but he's not a nose tackle. So they have to fix that as well. But already this coaching staff, and I want to also mention the hiring of the O-line coach, James Campone, who there's some funny videos of him and Aaron. He goes back to the Green Bay days. And Mike McCarthy has always had good offensive lines. Like, I can't think of a time where Mike McCarthy had a bad offensive line in
I mean, the
Dallas or Green
Packers, they
Bay.
had some really good interior guards with Sitton and Lang. Just every year, and then they had David Bakhtiari too. Like they just had some guys.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that can be elevated with Mike McCarthy. Um, but he's going to have to prove that he's a coach who can perform in these big games, because I think that's been the issue with Mike McCarthy. And for him, as far as him being fired in Dallas, I mean, Jerry Jones is just crazy. So I don't necessarily think he deserved to be fired, especially, they hired Ryan Schottenheimer. I remember thinking at the time, I don't know how that's an upgrade, and I still don't know if it really is. So yeah, I'm okay with the hire, and I think the big thing that people are getting wrong is that he is Mike Tomlin. He's the offensive version of Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin hasn't got his side of the ball right for years, and you can't say the same thing about McCarthy. You just can't. So, yeah, I'll let Jake Bell take the floor here, because I think Jake Bell feels a little differently than me and Nate. I don't know exactly, but and I understand why people think it's a lateral move, like, and not going younger. But I also don't feel the need that we have to have a coach that's 35 years old and unproven, and that'll be here for 20 years. Like, you hire the best coach available, and Mike McCarthy, from a resume standpoint, was the best coach available. Between the three finalists, though, he would have been my second choice, obviously because of what Brian Flores has done on the defensive side of the ball. But I'd much rather have had Mike McCarthy over Anthony Weaver. I just don't know what he's really done.
Yeah, I know me and Nate would talk about this a little bit. Like, I think people are hating on McCarthy for the wrong reasons, for sure. He's not going to come in and make the Steelers a disaster. That's just not going to happen. I can nearly promise you that, unless, Will Howard becomes terrible or something like that. If Rodgers doesn't come back, or if they don't trust, whatever. It would just have to be a crazy situation for them to be a bad team. It's just, to me, like, I just didn't feel like he's the type of coach I guess the Steelers should have hired from where they're at, where they're going to have to do some retooling. They're going to have to do something about Patrick Queen and probably Jalen Ramsey, too, because both of them are getting paid way too much for the productions they've gotten. TJ Watt, that's something you're going to have to make a decision on. The offense, who knows what the receiver core is going to look like. There's so many things that, and I know we still have a whole offseason ahead, a whole draft, a whole free agency. But to me, like, initially, it's just, this isn't a roster to where you grab a Mike McCarthy. Maybe Mike McCarthy would be a great fit for the Ravens. I think that would be good. Bills, something like that, where they already have just like a core that can do very well whenever healthy. It's just, to me, I kind of wanted that younger option, maybe someone from a Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan tree, even if they're not a coordinator currently with them. But, something along those lines. I think just having someone young, creative on either side of the ball, I think would have worked well. But either way, I'm not, like, whenever I saw this news, I wasn't like, oh, this is the worst. Like, this is horrible. Like, so far, I didn't mind the coordinators and guys he's looked at and hired. Obviously, Patrick Graham, he's an interesting defensive coordinator. I remember whenever they hired him, I was like, interesting. I don't really know much about him. He was with the Raiders. Like, I'm not too sure. But I looked at the comments on, I think it was Pro Football Rumors, and they were all like, man, like, all the Raiders fans were like, man, we're going to miss him. He did so much with the little stuff he had. So I'm like, okay, I mean, that's at least a little bit encouraging with all that being said. But I think one thing that stood out is, I know this isn't anything crazy, but I know that they interviewed Scott Tolzien for the offensive coordinator job, which is interesting to me because he's 38 years old, and usually, Tomlin would never interview someone that young at offensive coordinator. Like, that's just not something you would see. And not only that, but he's more of a passing game type of coordinator. He was a quarterback coach for the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, quarterback coach this year with Tyler Shuck. So that's an interesting name to kind of think about. And obviously he spent time with McCarthy, with the Cowboys and everything. But that's just not a person that Tomlin would interview, especially someone that young and on the same side of the ball as the head coach. Like, that's an interesting thing to me, and I'm very excited to see who McCarthy hires at OC. I think it would be interesting, but yeah, no, I begin to have more optimism with the guys that I'm seeing that he's bringing in because they're, like you guys mentioned, they're not typical Tomlin hires. Like, it's not like, they're going to get the most boring offensive coordinator ever because Tomlin wants to run the ball, try to drain the clock because he doesn't want his defense out on the field. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case at all, which is going to be very encouraging. And I think that we're going to see more of I wouldn't say like a heavy run game, but I feel like we're going to see a lot more success in more of just like, I know we talk about whenever you think of Pitt, you think of big running backs, like powerful running backs in establishing that side of the ball. I think it would definitely look better with the Steelers on that side of the ball as well. Just knowing the type of coach McCarthy is and everything. So I wouldn't hire McCarthy based off of the roster the Steelers have, but the Steelers are definitely going to be competitive at the worst. And, we'll just have to see how that works. But overall, you can't say this is a bad hire. It's not. But that's just the way I see it.
The only thing I challenge you on is I think the Steelers can retool with Mike McCarthy because he's here for 5 years. Like,
that is true. Like he has a window where he can build this team.
You can get out of some of these contracts and like this team isn't far away from being. Obviously, you need to get the quarterback right, but outside of the quarterback, I mean, there's a lot of good pieces in place as far as the offensive line is concerned. The defensive line, there's a lot of young guys, right? Joey Porter's establishing himself as a cornerback one. Like, there's a lot to like. There's certainly a lot to fix, but it's not like there needs to be a total rebuild. And I understand fans who want a total rebuild to get that quarterback. But we have to understand, like, the Rooneys, that's not going to happen. So we just have to move on with that. And that's where the criticism of the Rooneys come, where of Art Rooney comes in. Like you said, I mean, why be afraid? Why did they do this just because they don't want to retool at all? Like, that's what we're gonna like. And that's the concern I have, is like, it felt like a lateral move. And Art Rooney did say, we have no intentions of rebuilding. And it felt like he basically put the hammer down on that sentiment by hiring Mike McCarthy. And the only negative thing I thought that I didn't like to hear from the press conferences was like, Mike McCarthy's like, I love the roster. And he said, I love guys who come back on second contracts. And I think that's the biggest issue with the Steelers. They need to get younger and not worry about having guys on second contracts. So, and I don't want to take too much of a press conference because I'm sure Mike McCarthy still has to do his homework on what needs to be fixed. And I'm sure he's saying stuff, the right things. He wants to say the right things in front of the owner as well. So, that's a wait and see kind of deal.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be a long process with the Steelers. I mean, it's a very unique situation because you have a team that never rebuilds. It's not an obvious rebuild situation because like we've been talking about, there are a lot of really good players on this team. But if they were to have a down season next season, I'm not going to blame McCarthy one bit because it's going to be all unless like you can tell it's an abject coaching failure up and down the coaching staff, because there's a real chance they go into the season with Will Howard as their starting quarterback. I mean, that's at this juncture we have no idea what's going to happen at quarterback, and all everybody can talk about is Will Howard because he's with Mason Rudolph. He's the only quarterback under contract, so. It'll be very interesting, and I don't like the argument that this is an old roster. It's old at a couple positions. It could be younger. It could have been younger if they moved off a lot.
Yeah.
Cam Hayward's, who knows with him. I mean, I would be fine with him coming back another season. He played really well in the second half of the season. He was solid in the first half as well. But I think on the D line, they're very young. You talk about Derek Harmon, you talk about Y.A. Black, you talk about Keanu Benton, you talk about Jack Sawyer, you talk about Nick Herbig, who showed a lot, and you have Alex Highsmith there still, who's under contract. And I don't think that contract was terrible by any means. But the Steelers do a great job at developing those outside linebackers, which is why it was great. I'm pretty sure he's coming back, right? The outside linebacker coach. Did I see that?
No, he left.
That's not happening?
Denzel
He left?
Martin.
He did.
That's the
I thought
only
I saw
big loss. And that's the only big loss I feel, like, as far as Tomlin's staff. I'm glad they brought back Gerald Alexander as the DB's coach. But Denzel Martin, I think he went to Dallas. I think that's
interesting.
Or did he interview with
Really?
Dallas? Maybe, you know what? Wait, he might not have gotten the job, but he was interviewing with somebody, which
So could he come
indicates
back
he's not
then?
coming back.
Oh, but he can't come back though.
Cowboys they interviewed him, so we don't know if he's actually going to get it. But that signals that like he's not coming back. And obviously, I like Tom Arth coming back as quarterbacks coach. I'd like them to keep Eddie Faulkner too as the running backs coach, but like that doesn't really matter as much.
What's
to me,
interesting? What's interesting about, I think McCarthy's done a great job, and I thought he would, just because, going back his track record with bringing on, that's a great point you made, Peyton, about Tomlin versus McCarthy. Tomlin has not been good at hiring coordinators under him, particularly offensively. Obviously, it was an abject disaster, really. I mean, you couldn't be worse than what they were, especially with Matt Canada, but really, when you talk about Todd Haley, with the talent they had on that offense, to not be where at the very top of the league. But you talk about the defensive side. I like the Patrick Graham hiring. Now doing some James. You mentioned James Campen, the O-line guy.
That is the thing that I'm most excited about.
And I agree, because he's no nonsense, but he's like a lovable kind of guy. But he knows O-line. Jake Bell, you were talking about those Green Bay O-lines for a while. That was under him. Aaron Rodgers has talked glowingly about him. But also they brought in McCarthy brought in one of his guys, Ramon Chinyong from Dallas. He'll
be the assistant O-line coach, I believe.
Yeah, and
right?
he's the running back guy. He's going to be the running back coach. But he was an O-line.
Oh, okay.
He was an O-line guy prior. So that's two guys that know O-line. And obviously with the running backs. So I think, and McCarthy talked about his press conference, we're going to run the football, right? That's what he was very clear about that. He wants to get back to running the football. And there's going to be a passing element too. So I just think, Tomlin, Arthur Smith, Terrell Austin, to Mike McCarthy, Patrick Graham, and whoever the OC is, I think it can't be understated the upgrade that it's going to be overall. And I think it brings some excitement. But I think the narrative about this is an old roster. There's so many narratives with the Steelers all the time. This is an old roster. Tomlin is a great football coach. Just all these things. And Mike McCarthy's a terror. Mike McCarthy's an offensive Tomlin. There's always these narratives that every Steeler fan just regurgitates them. And that was part of why I was just so annoyed. It's just do you guys have any original thoughts about Mike McCarthy? Do you even know what he did prior to being named Steelers head coach? I just didn't. It was personal attacks. And you see that from the national types as well. Just fans of any team attacking McCarthy. But yeah, I'm excited. And like I said, the same people who were, who waited until October and maybe still didn't want Tomlin gone, those same people who were just starting in 2025 to want Tomlin gone are the most angry with the Mike McCarthy hire. So that leads me to believe that there's going to be some optimism there. But guys, you guys have any more thoughts on Steelers McCarthy? We can talk next week, but I want to get into the other coaches too around the league as well. But go ahead, Fade.
One more thing about McCarthy. It's not really about McCarthy, but it's about this idea of retooling, right? And I think when we talk about retooling, right, there's parts of this roster that need retooling. And I think there's a chance that a lot of those things are going to be fixed. Probably not all of them, but a lot of them. But the big question, are the Steelers willing to take a gamble at quarterback? And that means whether it's Will Howard or another younger, unknown quarterback, or anyone younger on the quarterbacks, on the under center, anyone. I don't care who it is, because obviously you have to bring in competition for Will Howard if you're going younger. And I feel like the Steelers can't. I think they're afraid to not win less than 9 or 10 games, and that is going to lead them to bring back Aaron Rodgers. And you guys know I like Aaron Rodgers, but and this is where I want to hear your thoughts on this on as far as the quarterback position is concerned. And that was the other negative about McCarthy's press conference, is saying, why wouldn't I want Aaron Rodgers back?
And then saying you want a mobile quarterback in the pocket.
Yeah, like that's
which I agreed with. I agree with that.
You have to get over this we need to win 9 or 10 games thing. Because if you don't get over that, you're going to bring back Aaron Rodgers. And that's my greatest fear. Like, I'd be okay if the Steelers fixed a lot of the issues they've had over the years and went 6-11, 7-10 because the quarterback position was young and inexperienced and just flat out stunk. Like, if that happened, I'd be okay. I'd be okay with it, because at least they're trying to view their options, right? And they need to be scouring their options. And that's not, by bringing back Aaron Rodgers, that is not going to solve that problem. It's just not. And you're just going to kick the can down the road. And then, like, you think, well, next year is going to be our year. But, like, we thought this year was going to be the year for the quarterback position. The Steelers, I mean, they're not going to have anyone in the first round to draft that's remotely good. So, and I'm for taking a quarterback in every draft, but you have a higher chance of hitting when you get that guy in the first round, especially in the upper half of the first round. So I'm not saying tank, but I'm saying try and be as competitive as you can while going young at quarterback and taking risks at quarterback, whether that's a 3rd or 4th round pick this year, or if it's Will Howard, or if it's somebody in free agency that's younger and maybe deserves a chance. You have to take a risk, and Aaron Rodgers, that's not a risk. That's playing it safe, and I love Aaron, and I wouldn't be angry if Aaron came back, but it would show us that Art Rooney is afraid to go under 500, and it would just kick the can down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I just who are your guys' ideal quarterback candidates? Right now.
Well, I think me and Jake Bell both agree it shouldn't be Rodgers, and you guys know I love Aaron as well, but Payne, I think real quick, I just think you made a great point about the kicking the can down the road. That's what the Steelers have done for 10 years. That's what has been a huge issue with the franchise and at the biggest position at quarterback. Right. And you can go through all the names, and it is the definition of kicking the can down the road, and poor evaluation of players. But go ahead, Jake Bell, if you have any quarterback idea. I mean, it's so hard now because we have no idea, what's going to go on. We heard some names there, but the free agent market for QB is never great. There's always one guy though, and last year was Sam Darnold. And I remember on our podcast, we were saying we'd like to see Sam Darnold, if not Aaron Rodgers or something. And we didn't have the same opinion on him as we do now. But there are some diamonds in the rough, but it's not very often, especially not with the Steelers and evaluating that.
Yeah, so if I'm the Steelers, I think I would go. Obviously, I'd go young, and I'm going to go with 3 quarterback options that I think have completely different skill sets. So you have different things to work with. I would definitely go for Malik Willis because why get young? I don't know what kind of contract Willis is going to warrant. I think people expect him to get more years than he will. I would imagine Willis isn't going to sign long term for less than what he believes he could be after he starts year one somewhere, if he starts. I'd attack him. And then so you have a very much of a mobile quarterback in Malik Willis. Then you have Will Howard there, who is more of a passer, but he's not slow. He's not like a statue in the pocket.
He can move around.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I know we talked about this before, but I would draft Garrett Nussmeier, mid to late rounds. He's a pure pocket guy, and he's a guy that I really think got screwed over with an LSU offense that didn't play up to par. I think he's a talented quarterback. He's older. He's got experience. He's a loyal guy. He didn't start at LSU till his fourth season. So you're getting just three completely different quarterbacks and just a lot more different things to work with. And I feel like I don't know. I think it would be unique to have a bunch of different quarterbacks that could start, but are also very different. So, and young.
Jake Bell, let me throw this at you. I know he's off an Achilles tear. What about Daniel Jones? What about a one-year flyer on Daniel Jones?
If they got Daniel Jones, I would be ecstatic because I love Daniel Jones. I just don't know because unless someone like Jalen Warren becomes insane, I just don't know how much it's going to work because Daniel Jones's best seasons was with top tier running backs. He had Saquon Barkley on his last elite season.
What if this O-line?
And then he had Jonathan Taylor and the offensive line. So I think it would be really all dependent on what happens if Mike McCarthy's offensive line coaches are the real deal, if Jalen Warren really takes that step up to a huge level. But if they get Daniel Jones, I would watch every single game, and I would be it would be the first time where I am all in watching these games.
Go Steelers!
Because I want Daniel Jones to succeed so bad because he is the most overhated player in the NFL, and he shouldn't be. So
the most overhated quarterback with the most overhated coach.
Yes. It's a
I'll throw one more quarterback name at you guys because I've seen it swirling around.
I know where he's going.
We've seen it with the Steelers for a couple seasons. This has been the rumor. Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray.
Jake Bell may never watch another game.
It just wouldn't make sense. I mean, he's not. He's not I just don't trust him in the second half of the year. It's every single year. It's the second half of the year. It's an issue, and that's when you need to play your best football.
Well, first of all, it would depend on how much the Steelers are paying him. Number one.
That's true. But still, I mean,
if they don't have to pay him a lot of money, and I don't like Kyler Murray at all, but if he could be with the Steelers on a team friendly deal where Arizona is eating up a lot of his contract. I would do that over Aaron Rodgers because at least you're taking a swing because we know the athleticism is there. As far as Kyler Murray being a long-term option, I don't see it because number one, he can't see over the over the offensive line, and what makes him great is his athleticism. And I'm sure, however, what's he 28, 29? I'm sure he has a few more years of being an elite athlete, but I don't know how long that would.
He's been hurt too. He has injury history.
Right, and if you're Art Rooney, the way he thinks, Kyler Murray is a guy who, you'd think wow, that's a lot, that's high upside at the position, and that could help us compete now, but also as a younger option, that Mike McCarthy can work with. I from a fan perspective, I probably would rather see Aaron Rodgers again. But if Kyler Murray were to come here on a friendly deal, I feel like it would be somewhat looking toward the future, and then just kicking the can down the road. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, them bringing in this James Campone, as much as I like him, the first thing that's talked about, Aaron Rodgers and him are really close. All signs point to this Aaron Rodgers thing continuing.
Yeah, it's just I'm nervous about Murray because I feel like it would just keep the Steelers mediocre. I just kind of want to get out of that any way I can. I'd rather experiment with different things, experiment younger. I agree with you.
Kyler Murray would certainly be an experiment.
He would be, yeah, but like I feel like they'd still win like 9 games or something. You know what I mean? So like I get what you like. I 100% get what you mean with the athleticism and you know just different things. It's just I don't know. It would just be weird to me, but we'll have to see.
Well,
You guys though, I love Mac Jones, but I don't think. I just don't think because if you want to go,
You just want to bring up Mac Jones.
I love. Though I'm serious. He was fantastic this year.
McCorkle.
You can't deny that. I mean, you'd have Big Mac and Big Mike. I mean,
Big Mac, that's incredible.
And that play sheet, that menu.
Can we put that in the thumbnail?
So like, if he becomes a Steelers quarterback, he's either going to be Big Mac or Little McCorkle. Is that what his name is?
Little McCoy. He's not little though. He's like 6'4".
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if he doesn't perform well, that's what I mean. But if he performs well, he's Big Mac.
Like I think honestly, like I think Mac Jones could be a franchise. Like I might be delusional in thinking that, but the thing is his lack of mobility. His lack of mobility is a concern, and I don't know if Mike McCarthy is looking at that. So we'll see.
Hey, well, you mentioned it, Mike McCarthy. What if he elevates a Kyler Murray? What if he elevates a McCorkle Jones? You know, you never know. He's a supposed quarterback whisperer. That's what I'm being told.
Mac Jones was elevated with a good offensive coach.
That is true.
When he was with Josh McDaniels, he was decent. When he was with
This
Shanahan,
season,
he was great, right? And then but for Kyler, he had Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff Kingsbury had other issues, but
that's a franchise.
It only went so far. Yeah.
Mac Jones would be interesting though. I would rather have him than Kyler Murray, I think.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Well, we'll certainly have a lot of time here in this offseason to debate which QBs the Steelers should go after. But I quickly want to go over some of these coaches. Obviously, in the AFC North, Jesse Minter gets hired by the Baltimore Ravens to be their head coach. And just a couple days ago, Todd Monken announced as the Cleveland Browns next head coach. The Cleveland Browns, obviously, they were very thorough with their investigation it wasn't an investigation, really. It was a torture hour of interviews for these
the fact
candidates.
that it came down to Jim Schwartz, who I think is a good football coach, but like with the amount of interviews you had, you shouldn't be hiring from within. Like you should just keep him as a defensive coordinator. It shouldn't have came down to him. But yeah, and then you pick Todd Monken because Todd Monken would let Jim Schwartz on his staff, and Jim Schwartz says, didn't pick me for the job, so I'm out of here."
Yeah.
So I mean, what a nightmare, and I don't know what Todd Monken is. That'll probably be a disaster. And I feel very confident in saying for the Steelers that they have the second best coach in the division, at least the second best coach in the division.
Yeah, like I guess like looking at the Browns situation, like to me, what was the point of firing Stefanski, right? I mean, he immediately goes to the Falcons, and he has the most wins of any Browns head coach since they went back to Cleveland by far, by like 15 or 20 wins. It's just, to me, like I just don't know how much sense that makes. You get an older coach, unless, like I mentioned before, like whenever like in our group chat, maybe they use him as a one and done coach, like with what the Patriots did.
They could be tanking for Arch, legitimately.
Like the Patriots had Gerard Mayo for a year, and then they fired him right away. Like I could see that like a similar situation.
They're sabotaging Shadur. They're sabotaging.
They might, genuinely, because like why would, like, I don't understand why you would fire Stefanski to get a head coach in the 60s whenever you're clearly in a rough spot. Like you're not in the position to win now. Like it's just, to me, I feel like they have to be using this as a one and done type thing. and then they want to, because they didn't like the head coaches that were available or guys that were at least willing to interview, and they want to wait until next year whenever they feel maybe they can be more of an attractive job. I don't know. It's just weird to me, though.
That's easily the worst hire. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And we got
But
to
I
see
like
what the
Jesse Minter a
Cardinals and
lot,
the
though.
Raiders do. But
Yeah. But like,
Jesse Minter is my favorite hire.
Mm-hmm. He's a really good coach.
I compare him to Mike Macdonald.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Macdonald was at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, at Baltimore with John. Similarly, and we saw McDonald elevate those defenses. Similarly with Staley, he was with John, then he was with Jim, right, at Michigan, won a national championship. And then what I think is most notable about him is that Chargers defense, when Jim Harbaugh took over, was atrocious. And with about the same roster, Jesse Minter turned it into a top 10 unit. I mean, at least I would assume it was about top 10. So, and they were good again this
great.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, to learn from Jim and John Harbaugh, like, I just think that's such a good hire. He was on the top of my list for me with Brian Flores for the Steelers job, as far as knowing their side of the ball. And I think I trust Minter more, actually. Like, looking back, like, I probably would have ranked Minter over Flores. Like, Minter is growing on me.
Yeah.
Like, just maybe it's because he was hired by the Ravens, and out of all the coaching jobs available, who is the best organization? It's easily the Ravens, as far as how well run they are. It's easily the Ravens. So I feel really good about that for Baltimore. I think their defense is automatically going to improve. We'll see who he hires as the offensive coordinator, because I mean, you have the 2-time, should have been 3-time MVP of the league. How do you want your offense to operate? How much do you want Derrick Henry involved in the offense? That was a big talking point last year. I'm really excited about this for the Ravens, and I think it's gonna be tough for the Steelers moving forward. Like, I think the Ravens moving off of I think this was we talk about lateral moves. This wasn't a lateral move, right? It was a forward move, and that was my favorite hire. However, my second favorite hire, Robert Saleh to the Titans, because again, I think his time with the Jets was extremely, what's the word?
Misleading.
Tainted.
Yeah.
By the media, by the goofy owner, and by Aaron Rodgers. It was, and it's not a shot at Aaron, but he had way too much control, and
Sound like a shot
him
at
and that
Aaron.
owner together destroyed that whole situation. But when Robert Saleh left the Jets, because what kept the Jets kind of competitive when he was there was their defense, and their defense has never been close to the same. As soon as he left, it was a disaster. And we saw what he did in San Francisco this year with all those injuries. Like, we know he knows his side of the ball. And now he's taking the reins of the play calling in Tennessee because he learned from his experience with the Jets. He was like, man, I need to be calling the plays. Like, that's where I'm most comfortable. But what makes his hire so great for me now is the fact that they brought in Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator. That is a great coaching duo, and that is great for a young quarterback like Cam Ward. I am really excited. Both of those personalities, Saleh and Dable, that's going to be a fun locker room.
Yeah, it will be.
To say the least. Like, that, I am really pumped for the Titans because this Tennessee franchise, I mean, they made a horrible mistake getting rid of Mike Vrabel, but it feels like, maybe the light's at the end of the tunnel here.
I kind of want to. I do want to talk about those two guys as well, real quick. Both head coaches. As for Minter, like you mentioned, like a young defensive mind, knows his side of the ball, and I think that works well with the Ravens for two reasons. One, you already know the offense you have with Lamar Jackson. There's no, we need to develop him, stuff like that. He's an established quarterback, one of the best in the NFL when healthy. I like the idea of getting a young defensive mind, especially since the Ravens seem to be really Kyle Hamilton dependent on that side of the ball. So I think that you get Jesse Minter, and all of a sudden you can find more consistency on that defense to where Lamar Jackson doesn't have to do everything. And I think the Ravens easily should be the favorites to win that division going into the year. I don't think it should be close at this point. So I'm really, even though you don't want to see the Ravens win, but I don't know, I just like seeing teams that are well run regardless of what division they're in. So I hope that the Ravens, this works out and everything. I think that'd be awesome. As for Robert Saleh, I completely agree. You look at his time with the Jets, and again, they never had a winning record with him. But at the same time, these games are so much closer. Like it's like they were a competent bad team. They weren't a disaster. It was just Saleh is definitely a good coach. He knows the side of the ball. And I love the Brian Daboll offensive coordinator hiring because he's a guy that should be hired as the opposite side of the ball as a head coach if he's an offensive coordinator. So the fact that Saleh is defensive minded, Brian Daboll is going to control his side of the ball, and I would be shocked if Cam Ward doesn't improve with him there. People forget, like with the Giants, like of course we'll talk about my boy Daniel Jones again, but I mean look what he did on that side of the ball in 2022. I mean Daniel Jones, everyone was like, oh bust, this horrible pick, stuff like that, and all of a sudden he made him a playoff winner. So like Daboll and I thought Jackson Dart obviously as well showed really great signs, and I'm sure that even at the end of the season, whenever he was still playing well when healthy, or at least his last part of the season, Dart still, I mean, he learned majority from Brian Daboll. So I think Daboll is very good with quarterbacks, very underrated because, he got fired, and, just getting fired mid-season is not a good look. But I think if Daboll succeeds with Tennessee, there's no doubt in my mind he gets a head coaching job somewhere. So very excited for these two head coaches, or these two hirings.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I like the Minter hire. Not surprising, Baltimore did well in their hiring. I also like Saleh. We've talked about it. We like Saleh as a coach, and we were wondering because we weren't hearing anything about Brian Daboll for a while. And we didn't hear anything about head coaching roles for Brian Daboll, but he lands with an OC, and if he does well with Cam Ward, that's really going to look well for him, in the years to come. In GMs and front office minds as a head coach. But I like the John Harbaugh hire for the Giants.
Right.
I don't think it's like the best, but I think it's, what have we been hearing? Stability, right? He brings that stability to an organization that feels like if they just get some stability, like they haven't been the Jets, like they have talent, man. They've had talent for a while. Their D-line for years has been really good. And they got Andrew Thomas at O-line. I like their O-line a little bit. I think you could always improve your O-line, but you get Malik Neighbors back. You got Scadaboo, right? And Jackson Dart, we'll see. But I think the Giants are a team that you could look at as, maybe the similar blueprint as the Patriots of this season. Now, not to go to the Super Bowl, but I think to be competent in an NFC where the Eagles are less than inspiring. Nobody wanted to be their OC. They just hired their OC. Dallas, who knows? Washington, who knows right now? I mean, that's a division where the Giants, I think, can compete in 2026. So I like the hire. I like the hire in Atlanta with Stefanski. Jake Bell, you talked about it. We were saying it when it happened. Don't know why Stefanski was fired by the Browns. The only explanation is they were the Cleveland Browns. And maybe we've been watching the Shadur files. Maybe Cleveland ownership was rattled by the criticism of Kevin Stefanski, and they moved off of him because of that.
Which is crazy because ownership was the one who drafted Shedeur Sanders.
Crazy enough, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I like to me, and I praise the John Harbaugh hire, but like, I think the way
a good
people
hire.
The way people are overreacting to Mike McCarthy in a bad, negative way is the same way people are overreacting to John Harbaugh in a positive way. Like,
yeah,
is he like Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart had a good thing going?
Yeah,
like,
they did.
You could, and I think Brian Daboll kind of lost the locker room though, and I think that's where John Harbaugh comes in, right? But like, is John Harbaugh going to be able to develop Jackson Dart? I mean, he was able to do it with Lamar Jackson. But like, is that comparable? Like, I don't know. And John Harbaugh's just been a little goofy the last few years, but like, I would probably put him third under Minter and Sala as far as hires, and I may be dead wrong about that, but Jackson Dart I still have my questions about. And it's gonna be I have to look into who John Harbaugh's bringing on his staff, because that's gonna matter. That's absolutely gonna matter. Because he's very similar to Tomlin in that way. But like, if he could win 8 or 9 games with the Giants, it'll automatically be an improvement. But so the only one we didn't talk about, and I can't say I hate the hire, because I don't necessarily know if he's a bad coach or not, but it was, as Stephen A. Smith would say, it didn't move me. The hiring of Joe Brady, promoting Joe Brady from
I didn't even mention that. Oh my goodness.
From offensive coordinator to the Bills head coach.
That felt like a settle. To me. Like, it felt like, you were so quick to move off of McDermott, and it's like, okay, well, it's a coveted job. There's going to be a ton of candidates, good candidates who want this job, who see Josh Allen and just, fix the roster a little bit. And it was quick, it was abrupt, it just felt rushed. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if it's an upgrade per se. I mean, I think it is a little bit, but I think Sean McDermott's a good football coach, and so I don't think you move off him and then just to promote from within. I don't think there's a promote from within situation.
It's a similar thing to the Browns.
I was going to say it's like the opposite almost. Yeah. They were probably too afraid to lose Joe Brady.
And I just don't know what to make of Joe Brady. And I don't want to judge people on, like, looks and, like, the way they talk. But he doesn't feel like a head coach to me, based on his vibe. And I hate to have the analysis of, well, his vibe isn't good enough to be a head coach. Like, I'm not going to make that conclusion based off of that. But that's one thing that's kind of, like, with me. Number 2 is, like, how good of an offensive coach is he? Yes, he obviously elevated the offense when they fired Ken Dorsey. But, like, it's not like they weren't scoring points with Ken Dorsey. Like, when you have that offensive line, Josh Allen, James Cook, like, I guess Joe Brady's a good offensive coordinator. I don't feel like it was a swing. I just don't think it was a swing by the Bills they needed if you're going to move off of Sean McDermott. And I agreed with them moving off of Sean McDermott. But at the same time, their options were kind of limited. Like, the only other guy that I heard was, like, Brian Dable. And it was like, well, Brian Dable's a little moody. But I thought that could have worked because of the relationship with Josh Allen. I mean, he's the guy who got Josh Allen to be the quarterback he is today. But would that mean he would have been the right head coach? I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know who else they would have got, but I don't know, man. It just, something feels off to me about that.
Jake Bell, you got anything to add to Joe Brady?
I don't think so. Just kind of like what I said before. Like, I don't know. It's kind of, to me, it seemed like they were too afraid to lose him, because maybe they would have gone to a Brown situation where, they hire another coach and then Joe Brady feels betrayed and leaves or something like that. That's what I felt like was the case, because, like, I don't know, it just, you're firing Sean McDermott and then promoting a guy from his staff. Like, that's kind of weird to me. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something that makes a difference with, you might as well have kept Sean McDermott at that point. I don't know.
To me, like, a Chris Shula would have made a lot of sense with the Bills. Because
being a defensive coach would be great for them.
Because their defense has been the issue. That's why you fired Sean McDermott.
And you already have Josh Allen.
That's what I thought.
And you already have Josh Allen. You don't need a young offensive mind that, you need to get a defensive head coach for that team.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like Schwab would have been, and obviously Brian Flores.
That would have been something.
I can't believe it's looking like another year of Brian Flores being passed up. Like,
Yeah.
He must have a bad rap. Like,
Yeah,
I
true.
don't know how he's not
I mean,
being
he got
hired.
fired from the Dolphins from turning around probably the least talented team they've ever had.
And we know that Stephen Ross is not the greatest human being to work with. Like, that was evident. That's why there was a lawsuit filed. Like, I guess maybe because of that whole situation, teams just shy away from Flores. But it's not like he isn't getting interviews. Did he pull out of the Raiders job, or is he still up for that? I don't know.
I have no idea either.
I haven't heard much from that job.
I mean,
I completely
because
forgot
he's-
the Cardinals job was even open.
Yeah.
He's
They're such
committed
an
to the
afterthought.
Vikings. He's committed to the Vikings
Yeah.
now, so...
Yeah. I mean, no offense to Cashman, but I would stay with the Vikings. So,
yeah, I mean, Jake Bell and I are in agreement. We would have went with a defensive coach. There.
I agree with
and
that.
anytime
too,
you
yeah.
have an offense that has their quarterback, that you don't need to develop that portion of your offense, grab a defensive mind, because that way you can you don't like you can be more balanced, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, you don't have to go all in on one side of the ball that's already really good. You know, if that, I don't know.
All right. So, anything else on coaching? We're gonna
wanna
probably
do
wrap it up.
Quick rankings.
How
Let's
would we
rank
till
it?
all the.
The head
I think we
coaches.
should
Yeah.
wait till all the hires happen.
I agree.
All right.
'Cause what if the Raiders get Flores? Then you got to move him up, maybe. I mean,
Right.
you never know. Cardinals, Bill Belichick, Hall of Fame snub.
Oh,
Bill Belichick.
jeez.
Yeah, that's-
We
I
didn't get to
can't
talk
believe
about that, but we don't even need to talk about that because it's a disgrace. And I heard some very respected people trying to justify it, or at least try their best
There's
to
no
justify
justifying that, bro. I don't
But
care.
there's
Like,
no
That's like
justifying.
saying in the NBA that Phil Jackson isn't the Hall of Famer. Like, that's insane to me.
And
Like,
we
they're
talk
basically-
about.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say they're making him out to be like he's Barry Bonds, like he was
Yeah.
drugged. Like, Spygate did not win him 6 Super Bowl. Like,
In the Deflategate, they
Whatever.
dominated that game anyway. Like,
it wouldn't have mattered. It
Yeah.
wouldn't have mattered if the ball was this water bottle.
yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered. But I think it honestly isn't even. I think what people aren't saying though, it's not even about. I don't think it's necessarily about. Obviously, I think it's jealousy a little bit with whoever this Bills Colts GM. This guy is like leading the charge on it. That's a joke. So it was jealousy. I don't think people are talking about that. But the main thing is more so than the scandals is the fact that Bill was and is a very contentious person, right? Like he doesn't get along with a lot of people. Like, he never got along with people in the media. Like, he just did his own thing. But that's kind of the legend of Bill Belichick, is he was just so great and he didn't care what other people thought, and he did his thing. But, like, when you make a lot of enemies, and I think that's what happened over his career because of how stubborn he was and with the way he did things, he made a lot of enemies. And I think that's what bit him in the butt. But that's not an excuse for what occurred.
And we harp on the MLB, the people, the writers, and everybody who make the selections as to the Hall of Fame sometimes. But at least they care. I mean, this is like a thing of like the NFL Hall of Fame has always not been taken as not nearly as seriously.
It's just
obviously,
really
as
crazy.
baseball. It's something that, like, I mean, there's not really a comparison in baseball, but I mean, that's like a Mike Trout not making the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. I mean, we were Derek Jeter. You don't get one person doesn't vote for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the end of the world in baseball. I mean, at least 11 people did not vote for Bill Belichick out of 50 to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I saw that and I was I was absolutely. I mean, I think everybody was just floored, like just
That wasn't
stunned.
on my bingo card.
No, that's
No, I don't think it was on
I
anybody.
honestly forgot though that Bill Belichick was up for the Hall of Fame. Like time
I
has
would
just
have
flown
no idea.
by.
Yeah.
It's just flown by.
Well, how
Yeah.
like
So for coaches, well, how long is it for coaches then? Because he was
I
just
thought it was
yeah,
5 years for everybody, right?
because like Belichick retired
he
in
was
what
just
after
coaching
the
the league.
2023 season because
Oh,
they
wow,
beat
you're
the
Yeah,
right.
Steelers at
Gerard.
home.
It's only been 2 seasons. Gerard Mayo and then Vrabel. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know that was happening. Like they
That's
were even
insane.
selecting and stuff. So, um, but real quick, guys, before we get out, this is another week of us not being able to talk baseball. But that's okay. We're gonna have plenty of time to talk baseball. But I real quick, um, we've talked about it a little bit. But what do we make of the Andrew McCutchen situation? Should he be brought back? Are the Pirates handling this correctly? What is going on here? What do we think about it?
This is a tough spot because obviously he's a sentimental figure, but to me, knowing that Kutch is either going to be a Pirate or he's not going to play, I would just wait. Like I would wait because you have to make decisions about other parts of the roster. I mean, they still need to look for an outfielder. They still need to look for someone at the left side of the infield. They still need a starting pitcher. Preferably, they could add to the bullpen. There's still so many other factors. It's just I can't worry about Kutch, who we know isn't going to have as much of, I guess, as many plate appearances, as many at bats as he had last year because of the Ryan O'Hearn signing. So there's just too many things for me. I think a lot of Pirate fans are like, oh, like we need to bring him back. It's like, look, the Pirates need to worry about adding to the offense before they bring back Kutch, who, again, unless there's injuries, he's not going to have the same impact as he had the last couple of years. That's just the reality of the situation. He's not getting younger either. Obviously, if the Pirates signed Kutch back, I'd be more than welcome to have him. I wouldn't be like, oh, they need to use that roster spot on someone else. I'd rather have Kutch in that locker room than having Sawinski out there. So,
And
it's
that's the
it's a
thing.
tough spot.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like that's what I was saying. When we were talking about this, like I don't want to hear like, oh, we can't. There's no spot on the roster for Andrew McCutchen, who was the third best hitter on the team last season, when Jack Sawinski is still on this roster. There is no reason whatsoever Jack Sawinski should be on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
The upside
But
is
he's
just
not.
not
We don't
there
know if
with
he's
this
going to be on the
franchise.
26 man though. We don't.
So,
We don't know.
well,
Like, what
Sawinski
his
doesn't have
role's gonna
options
be.
left.
He's not out. He's out of
Okay.
options though.
So
So
they could DFA
like,
him, but like they've pretty much refused to
Well, I think
let go
that's.
of him.
But that tells you all you need to know. Like, and I'm not. We're not gonna. I'm not gonna dive deep into it because it's somewhat confidential. But me and Nate heard something the other day that was pretty revealing about this situation, and it kind of points towards like this is the end for Kutch with the Pirates, and I'm not gonna cry about it. Like you have to have respect for Kutch, but at the same time, like, are we into bobbleheads, fireworks, and sentimental crap? Are we into winning? And some of the moves the Pirates have made this year, to their credit, and I don't give them much credit at all ever, but they have made some good moves that have helped improve this team. And they need to be focused on making more moves because, in my opinion, they're still not a team that's playoff ready as we sit here today, a couple of weeks before spring training. So, it's really, I don't think it's their top priority of concern. And, Kutch is out here, making all these crazy comments saying, I should be honored like Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols. Like, you're not, first of all, you're not that caliber of player.
No.
You're not a first ballot Hall of Famer. You're not Clayton. He said Clayton Kershaw. Like, he means that much to a lot of fans, but that doesn't mean you're not the caliber of player to me to get an automatic. Like, you've had a 3-year run. Like, he's had a 3-year run. He's 38 years old. I mean, I think he could probably play and be somewhat decent for as long as he wanted, probably. Like, he's just so fundamentally sound at the plate, and he's one of the better guys to play the game. I mean, he is. He's up there, and we talk about all-time hit leaders in the Pirates Pirates franchise. But we're in the business of trying to win, and I understand Nate's point of, well, if Jack Sawicki has a spot on the roster, why doesn't he Kutch? But like, we shouldn't be worrying about trying to make the roster, opening up a roster spot for Kutch. We should be worrying about making the roster better for the team.
I mean, Kutch shouldn't be a priority. Like, he should
That's
be.
what I'm saying.
Like, there's other positions that the Pirates need to upgrade before the season ends.
And we have to remember, this is Don Kelly's team, and Don Kelly can control who he wants. He's building the culture, right? Because last year that was Derek Shelton's team he was running. Now this is his team. And so he has to work with Ben Sherrington to get the guys in the clubhouse that are going to give them the best chance to win. And if that isn't Kutch, then that's their prerogative. And that's why I'm not going to be harsh on the organization with this, because it's not a matter of being cheap. It's not like Bob Nutting's not going to sign him because they want to save $4 million. That's not what it's going to come down to here. It's about what Don Kelly wants, and that's the hard truth. And it hurts, but not everything can end in a fairy tale. It just can't. That's not the real world.
Yeah, I just think, like, we were talking about, it's not even opening up a roster spot. I don't think you don't need to. I mean, we can still go through the players on offense, on this team that Kutch is better than even at this juncture, which is what I'm saying. Like, I think if they do add him, I think he does improve the team, which is what I'm saying. Like, if they don't do anything else, adding him improves the offense for what that's worth.
But you can't just do that and be like, that's not your. They need to do more than that. They need to do better than that.
I know. I'm just saying, like, as it stands. I mean, are they going to do, like, we're getting late, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting late early.
I mean, there's a name that people have thrown around as an option, and I don't know if the Pirates are interested in him, but he's a guy that we've talked about, I think, 2 trade deadlines ago, Luis Rengifo. I mean, other than last year, he's a pretty productive hitter.
He's a fun guy.
Like, again, he didn't do particularly well at the plate last year, but aside from that, usually his OPSs are about 750 or higher, above average hitter. I mean, if you get him cheap, I mean, I don't know. That's something to look at.
Yeah, we'll see what the Pirates do. I can guarantee. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think they're going to do something still to this roster before opening day. Because, I mean, from what Charrington was saying, and he said the right things about McCutchen at Pirates Fest last week. I think there's, like, a lack of communication from both sides, because, like, I feel like you got to say, like, with a guy like Kutch, like, if last year's the last year for him, it has to be announced. You know what I mean? Especially when they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
But clearly, Kutch wants to play, and I don't think he's going to retire. I mean, if the Pirates don't want him, he's not going to just lay down and say, okay, I'm done. Like, he'll go somewhere else for another year, right? I mean, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Well, does anybody, this is kind of a counter argument to what I was saying, but does anybody else want him at this stage?
I'm sure someone would take him. We took Tommy Pham last year. Someone will take Andrew McCutchen.
Hey, do not disrespect Tommy Pham.
But McCutchen's probably a better hitter than Tommy Pham. Still, I don't. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah.
But like, where's he gonna play? When's he gonna come off the bench 3 times a week? Like.
Yeah, and he's gonna hit against lefties everyone, and whatever. I don't know. There's still a lot of moving parts, and we don't always know what the Pirates are gonna do with the versatility of some of these guys, where they want them playing primarily and everything. But gonna wrap it up there. I was every week that we think there's not going to be a lot to talk about, we manage to go longer than when there are a lot of things to talk about. But that'll do it for this episode, the Big 62, in honor of our Yinzer savior, Mike McCarthy, who is a winner since he was young in Greenfield at St. Rosalia's. I mean, the winning culture started then. Man, that'll do it. Make sure if you liked our video and like our content to like our videos and subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media if you want to stay up to date on, our new episodes and our NFL picks. I'm sure we'll do stuff with that going forward, and maybe we'll have an MLB segment. Who knows? We'll see as baseball season ramps up after the Super Bowl here. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully in person together. I think for certain we'll be in person. We're cooped up with this podcast. I think too much the last few weeks. Thank you everybody, and hope you have a great fun.
Circumstances.
There have been, both on and off outside. I was gonna say like on and off the field.
On and off the field. Yeah, let's just end with that. That's a good.
Yeah, we'll say that. Yeah.
We always have the weirdest. It's usually me, but have the weirdest and the hardest times ending a podcast. But we always enjoy it there at the end. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.